Hello my friends, I've got something very interesting I want to show you today. It's the 3rd of April 2022 and I've just bought some Marang seeds. Sprouted Marang seeds. Wow, I'm really excited about this. I've met this guy on Oz Rare Fruits Facebook group. It's a really great group. If you're interested in fruits, growing fruits, even if you're not from Australia, especially rare fruits, you should join this group. They're really good. And I don't know a heck of a lot about meringues, and I haven't even tasted meringues, the meringue fruit. But it's very similar to a jackfruit. It's a big fruit, you know, it's about so big. And it's a very tropical tree. I'm pretty sure about that. It's almost what you'd call ultra tropical. Like a durian, for instance, is ultra tropical. And most people say you can't grow them in the subtropics. That's down here where I am. I'm in the subtropics. And it's almost the same with the meringue. Although this man has been successfully growing meringue down here now in South East Queensland, and he gets some big harvests too. So his seeds, the seeds I've got off him, are acclimatised to this area. So that's a really big plus. That's what it's all about. That's how people, well, it can take time, it can take generations even, but people always trying to grow these ultra tropicals in subtropical areas, and eventually they will adapt. That's essentially the theory. And well, this man's doing it with these meringue. He's successfully growing meringue, and it looks a little tricky, but this man is also successfully growing durian too, although he hasn't got any to fruit yet, but he's got some growing. And just that says a lot, because it's very difficult to grow durian here in the subtropics in southeast Queensland. I'd like to have a crack at it too with one of the more cold tolerant durians, because there's many different varieties, and there is a few varieties that grow up high in the mountains in the tropics, and that they do have a bit of a cold tolerance. But these things, it's good that people are pushing the limits, pushing the zones, trying to grow these ultra tropicals in subtropical areas, because eventually we will succeed. And well, in this meringue, well, yeah, these are acclimatised sprouted meringue seeds. And yeah, I met this really nice guy. I've been following him for a few years, and he's got an orchard on the Gold Coast, and he grows quite a few amazing trees. And I've been following his meringues for a few years, and yeah, even though I haven't tasted meringue, my mouth just waters just hearing everybody else's description of how good they are. It's a very good fruit. So I've been interested in these for ages, and finally he had a big harvest just this year, and he's had a lot of seeds. So he contacted me and offered me the seeds for a very reasonable price. Like, he sent it in this package, which would have cost a bit, But I bought 10 seeds for $26, which is an absolute bargain in my view. And I don't know what this male would have cost. It would have been a few dollars without doubt. And yeah, the mail in Australia is slow these days, but this has arrived really quickly. It's the 3rd today, Sunday. He told me he sent it last Tuesday. It got here Thursday or Friday. I should have just been checking, because these things have got to go in the ground now. I can't waste time. These things lose viability very quickly. But anyway, I'll open this up, and hopefully this is the beginning. I hope to give you a bit of a video of, explain a bit about Marang. I'd like to tell you more about this man too. I've got to contact him and ask him how he feels about having me mention him more on my video, because I would really like to talk more about him. He's got some amazing trees, and he's done a really good job at growing some amazing trees down here in South East Queensland in the subtropics. And so yeah, here we go. I'll show you the unboxing. He set it in this CD case, and he's already sprouted them, because they need to be sprouted immediately as soon as you get them out of the fruit, apparently. So, and he even told me in the message the roots are getting long, and like that was days ago. So let's see. If it messes up, it's my fault, because I haven't opened this soon enough. But yeah, I'm going to open this now and plant them immediately. Plant them this afternoon. So let's see how we go. Let's see what they look like. These Marang seedlings. Yeah, and it sounds like the most amazing fruit. I'm just so, I couldn't resist it. I couldn't say no when he offered me these seeds. See, I'm still not sure what's going to happen in my future. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to plant these trees here, for instance. There we go. Okay. Oh, well, that doesn't look too bad. Okay. I can work with that. Apparently I've got to carefully separate those seeds, but they don't look like too many roots. I should be able to work with that. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to plant these trees here in Redcliffe. It's hard to know what is going to happen in my future. My mum's not well, so that all makes a difference. I may have to move out of here soon. There's other family members who want to sell this house. So, but I'm definitely going to be enjoying, I'm going to grow them in pots for a few years, and it should be a very enjoyable journey, learning about these trees and growing them in pots. Well, that looks just perfect. That looks just perfect. These seeds are ready to go. That's beautiful. Oh, well, that one's got no, oh, it's open. Okay, no roots on it, but it's open. Here we go, eh? Wow. What's going on here? I did order 10 seeds. But yeah, 10 seeds for $26. There we go. Okay. Oh, a bit of root might have broken there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's them. There they are. Wow. Well, that should be fine. That should be no problem at all to get those in pots. I was imagining there might have been a tangle of roots that'd be a bit hard to separate, but no, that's just fine. There we go. 10 Marang seeds. $26. What a bargain. That's
wow.
A bargain if you ask me.
Wow.
Especially if you're a tree enthusiast like me. These will be very valuable, in my opinion. These will be very valuable. If I was ever going to sell these trees when they're a few years old in a pot, I'd be wanting a fairly good price for them, because these are acclimatised to South East Queensland. These are not just your ordinary Marang seeds. These are from trees that have been growing here in South East Queensland, and it's in the genetics now. It's in the genetics, that cold tolerance, which is what they need. So, and oh yeah, some of he showed some video and some pictures. He's been getting some big harvests. Definitely this year, we had a lot of rains this year, even though it wasn't all that hot, which again, you think they'd like that heat, but they got lots of rain anyway, lots and lots of rain and humidity, and he had some bumper harvests of meringue. It's big trees with lots of big fruits. Yeah, the fruits are that big. Hey, they're nearly as big as a jackfruit. Only from what I've heard, I think these are a lot nicer than a jackfruit. That's what a lot of people have told me anyway, that I've been chatting to on Facebook. Apparently this is a lot nicer. Oh yeah, and it grows wild in Borneo, this plant, and also in the Philippines. It grows in southern Philippines and Palawan, on Palawan and Mindanao. This tree grows wild, and over there they call it tarap. If I pronounce it right, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but T-A-R-A-P. That's one of the other names for it. But the Western name, in the West we call it meringue. And I think they call it meringue in Malaysia too. And we've adopted the term meringue. But in the Philippines they all call it tarap or tirap. Actually, I shouldn't even be trying to say it because I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But it does have a few different names, and I'll show you all that too on this video, hopefully, and explain a lot more about this fruit for you. And just show you these trees when they start sprouting too. Show you the seedlings, because they should grow, although it's autumn now, it's going to get cold. They're going to struggle over this winter, so I'm going to have to take extra good care of them this winter. Okay, as usual, I'm rambling on, but I hope I've given you some good information, and yeah, I'm so excited about this. This is really great. Very happy about this. It's going to be a real good little extra hobby for me, raising these trees. So thanks for watching, my friends, and yeah, and hopefully I'll be adding more to this video and just telling you more about it in the future. Okay, bye for now. Okay folks, I'll try and give you a bit more information about growing meringues in southeast Queensland. Now this is the man I've bought these seeds from, Robert Pulvirenti. And this guy really knows his stuff. I had a chat with him on a video call just yesterday, and oh, he's got so much information. We spoke for more than an hour before his phone ran out of battery, and yeah, he really knows his stuff. He's been involved in tropical fruit boards and rare fruit councils for more than 30 years, 33 years I think he said, something like that, or he might even said longer, he might have said 35 years. And yeah, he's got 1.67 acres in the Gold Coast Hinterland, and he's been quite lucky. He's got, there's a lot of different valleys all there in the back of the Gold Coast Hinterland, and sort of in northern New South Wales as well. And there's quite a few microclimates in those areas, and by the sound of it, he's got himself a good warm valley that's very sheltered and gets good sunshine. I lived in a valley down there too for about 15 years, not far from him, but mine was quite cold. It's amazing how cold they can get if you're in the wrong spot. And my valley used to get as cold as Katoomba, which is more than 1,000 kilometres further south, in the hinterland behind Sydney. So yeah, my place used to, a lot of times my place would sit on 11 degrees Celsius all day long, and then drop down to 5 or 6 at night, or lower. It's been down to 3 or 4 quite often. and it wouldn't frost, but it was a cold area. But Robert's in a nice warm spot. He basically, his temperatures never get below 7. He's telling me his worst time with cold was a few years ago. He had about a week of temperatures under 7 degrees, and that was the first time his meringue ever got hurt. And even then it lost about 20% of its leaves, and within about 3 months you couldn't tell it had been hurt. It got over it. So that's all very encouraging. So these meringues are an ultra tropical, I've found out now, but they will grow down here in South East Queensland. But you've got to find a good warm sheltered spot. They don't like wind much, and when they're young they take a bit of establishing. You've got to do a few things to nurse them along when they're young. But anyway, I'll give you a look at Robert's page. This is Robert's posts on the Oz Rare Fruit group. This is a great Facebook group. If you like your fruits, and especially your rare fruits, you really should join Oz Rare Fruit. There's a lot of very knowledgeable people there, and there's a huge amount of different fruits that really make your eyes open and just really surprise you. Some of the rare fruits that are around in Australia already. But yeah, this is his page. This is pretty much all the things Robert has posted since he's been on in this rare fruit group. So, but I'll take you right down to the bottom. He's got a lot of things on this meringue tree. He's got quite a big meringue tree. Well, this is his very first post. Actually, this isn't a meringue. This is what do they call it? Johnson River Almond. Now, I assume this is a native to Australia. Quite interesting. I'll just brush through some of these other things very quickly, but hopefully we'll just talk about meringues today. And yeah, I would love to talk with Robert a lot more, actually, and I'd love to do an interview with him too for my YouTube channel, because geez, he knows his stuff. He's got a lot of information. He's got this 1.67 acres. He bought it about 35 years ago. He's been living on it for about 33 years. Yeah, he's very lucky. He's basically got a food forest by the sounds of it. Oh, the whole block is covered in fruit trees now, and almost every tree is different. But I think he does have like 2 trees in some circumstances, maybe 3 or more, to help with pollination. But yeah, he's got a huge variety of rare trees, and he's reached the stage now where he's got to cut his trees back because some are starting to shade out other trees, and he's a bit disappointed in that, having to cut trees back to let other trees grow better. He's got the Mammy Sapote here. I've got one Mammy seedling here. This again, to buy these seeds off Robert, I bought my Mammy Sapote from North Queensland, and I got it through one winter. It struggled, and then the second winter I almost lost it, and it sprouted further down the stem, but I lost about 1.5 feet of stem. It was quite a setback, but hopefully my Mammy's getting used to it. Its 3rd winter's coming up now. But yeah, the seed's not acclimatised, whereas if you bought these seeds off Robert, you know, he's been, I haven't spoke to him about his Mammy yet. I only just noticed that. We haven't mentioned his Mammy, but again, his seeds are more than likely acclimatised to this area, to South East Queensland, so they'll have a lot better cold tolerance. It gets in the genetics. So yeah, when they've been grown down here, like these mammies very much like the tropics as well. It's a bit too cold down here for them. But again, as people are, as Robert says, pushing the zones, as people are trying to grow these ultra tropicals in less than ideal conditions, the genetics that the trees build up strength to deal with these conditions. It may take generations, you know, it may take more than the lifetime of one person in many cases, but eventually we will start to win. And it's really good to see people doing this because, or again, as Robert says, here in South East Queensland, in the Brisbane area, Brisbane, Gold Coast, North Sunshine Coast, we tend to get both types of tropicals and subtropicals and even temperate trees. We can get the best of many worlds of trees that can grow here. It's kind of an overlap of species can grow in this area because it's not really tropical and it's not temperate either, but a wide range of trees will grow here. And I guess that applies to many subtropical areas all around the world. This is something Robert briefly mentioned, these, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Magnifera. These are different mango species. Robert's got a interest in rare mango species, which is quite interesting. And he's got some mangoes from the tropics, he's not even sure what they taste like, but he's just giving them a try. Yes, Chempejack. Forgive me my bad pronunciation, but this is another tree that will grow in the subtropics that I would love to grow. And these seeds, again, would be very valuable because they've got cold resistance. But I've heard, yeah, the actual, what they call, there's about 3 different types. This one's got the jackfruit crossed into it. And it's got a better cold tolerance than the other types. Chempejack? Oh, sorry, it's just slipped my mind at the moment. The name of the true species, but this has got the jackfruit crossed into it. The true maybe I should just cut this bit out because I can't pronounce the damn thing. But yeah, it's got some jackfruit in it, so it gives it better cold tolerance. And again, these seeds are very valuable for South East Queensland. And anyway, this is what I want to show you. This is the main thing I want to show you. This is Robert's Marang. That's 21 or 22 years old. Off the top of his head, he wasn't exactly sure, but he's got records. And you can see it is a very beautiful tree. And Robert himself says it's very beautiful. He loves this tree. And yeah, it's getting quite big, isn't it? He's got a few other photos where there's no person in it. He's got his wife in there to give it scale. But when you look at it without a person there and you see those big leaves, it kind of looks a lot smaller. But yeah, it's got a good bit of size about it. 21 or 22 years old. And yeah, it's got pretty good cold tolerance now. And like he said, well, he had to nurse it along for its first few years. But as he said, it was only a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, we had a bad winter. Where there was prolonged cold weather. The weather went below 7 degrees for about a week, and it knocked the tree back for the first time in its lifetime. So that's interesting to note. And it lost about 20% of its leaves, but within 3 months it had come right back, and you wouldn't have even known anything happened to it. And it didn't even affect the flowering, I think Robert said. But back in 2006, 2007, Robert had some temperatures in his area that went down to, we had 2 nights that were down to 3 degrees and 4 degrees, and that hardly affected this tree at all. And you can often get that. You have trees that can handle 1 or 2 nights of very cold weather. It's the prolonged cold, when you get more than a week, where you get a number of days of cold weather. That's what we had here this last winter, actually. Last year in 2021, we had prolonged cold, and it really started to hurt a number of my trees too. Hurt my papayas and yeah, almost killed my Mammy Sapote, and even a number of trees with better cold tolerance. My soursops got hurt. It even hurt a lot of my trees that weren't so tropical, because it just got too cold for too long. But anyway, here's what he says here. Here is something for the zone pushers. A mature bearing Marang, Artocarpus. Don't ask me to pronounce that second bit. In my orchard on the Gold Coast Hinterland. You need a sheltered spot with really good soil for this one down here, and establishment under shade until it's about 2.5 metres tall. So yeah, that's his trick and recipe for success, according to Robert, is they need to be established under shade, like their own little shade house, until they're about 2.5 metres tall. And I think that gives them a little bit of protection from, well, maybe a little bit of protection from cold as well, cold and wind. He posted this in May 2019. So it's grown a bit since then as well. In the last 3 years, I'm sure it's looking bigger and better. And now he's planted another meringue near it in the hope of helping it to produce better fruit and more fruit. Because often an extra tree can help with pollination. What do we got here? There's another Magnifera. Not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. But yeah, it seems Robert's got quite a few different strains of rare mangoes. This is Robert's Durians. This is going to be interesting. Robert really knows his Durians too. And I don't know if anybody has got a durian to fruit down here in South East Queensland yet. But thank God we've got a few people trying. I'd like to give it a go too, actually. And yeah, Robert's got quite a bit of information there about growing durians down here. Yeah, it seems it's best to skip the commercial durians. That's the name for them. Don't ask me to say it. Because they really are an ultra-tropical fruit tree. But Robert's got a few growing. I think if anyone's going to get one to fruit, it'll be Robert. Yeah, according to Robert, the wild durian species found in the lowlands and up in a bit of altitude in some of the higher mountains. Like this, I think I can pronounce this, I'll just have a crack at it. Yeah, durian, Robert told me a bit about this. What do you call this again? Yeah, this is according to Robert, this is the most promising durian for southeast Queensland. A Durian Kinabalu Esses. So it's from Mount Kinabalu, anyway, in Borneo. And according to Robert, that one, he's pretty sure, Robert thinks that durian will even grow in as far south as Lismore, in the frost-free areas. You're going to have to get up on a hill a bit in sheltered areas. But he believes people could be growing in the Lismore area, this durian. It's from Mount Kinabalu. That's the beginning of the word there, Mount Kinabalu ensis, or something like that. And there may not be, or there could be a few of them in Australia, but there's not many. It's very, very rare. And people have tried to get this seed. Robert was trying to get this seed a few years ago. And durian is on the list of allowed species to be imported into Australia. But Australian customs have gone really crazy lately, and apparently they're stopping shipments of, well, I even know a few friends who've had
shipments of durian seeds seized by customs, even though they did everything right. There's really strict laws now with importing seeds, and they followed all the guidelines, but customs still seized the seeds. And Robert wanted to buy some of these seeds only a few years ago, and the people who were supplying them decided they didn't want to risk it anymore because they're just losing too many seeds. And like they had access to the seeds, they went to Mount Kinabalu, but we just weren't game to take the chance of sending them to Australia, even though there's many people who would like to buy these seeds. And that's really sad, because it'd be really good to see us improve our durian orchards numbers, have much more durian in Australia. We really need that. We need much more durian in Australia. The government did have a research station trying to learn about durians and growing, how to grow durians in Australia, because it's quite different to where they come from in Australia. Yeah, even though they're ultra tropical, the ultra tropics in Australia is quite different to where they're used to growing. So, you know, there's still a lot of research and pioneering that needs to be done to successfully grow big orchards of durian. And yeah, so far from what I understand, there's only about one man, a Malaysian Chinaman, who's growing large amounts of durian in the Northern Territory. And we need more people like that. I think particularly we need experienced Asian durian experts over here in Australia working on different species that can adapt to Australian conditions, because it's a fruit that is just getting more and more popular all the time, and it really is a nice fruit too. But anyway, getting back to this fruit, this from Mount Kinabalu, apparently it's a very nice fruit too. It's not a big fruit, but it tastes a bit like, he says this, I wrote this down actually, this fruit, like the best durians, have complex flavours that they can be really interesting, hey. And this fruit, apparently it tastes a bit like chocolate cherry rum cake. So isn't that amazing? Chocolate cherry rum cake. So yeah, according to Robert, and it's very small, but it has very complex flavours like all the best durians. And it would be really good to see a lot more of these seeds down here. And let's just hope the Australian government comes to the party and allows more people to import this seed to Australia, because this is the species that will grow in South East Queensland. Well, according to Robert, and I've heard other people say that this as well, that this is the one that we should be trying to grow here in South East Queensland, because it's used to high altitudes on Mount Kinabalu, where it gets quite cool. And yeah, this is the one that will adapt. And again, maybe we need to be growing a lot of seeds, a lot of plants, and hoping for variation to find that the seeds that can adapt the best. And then, yeah, a lot of selective breeding is still needed to be done. But anyway, yeah, he says here, if you can't grow the commercial durian because your climate is too cool, why not try one of the wild durian species that are found from the lowlands right up to 13,000 metres? And the durian Kinabalu ensis, forgive my pronunciation, the highest ranging species. Yeah, I think he means the highest range of species, grows the highest in the mountains. I should start that again, I will. If you can't grow the commercial durian because of your climate is too cool, if you can't grow the commercial durian because your climate is too cool, why not try one of the wild durian species that are found from the lowlands right up to 1,300 metres, like this durian from Mount Kinabalu. here. The highest ranging species would be nice to try, but very hard to get in Australia. And the other Durio graveolens, I think that's how they pronounce it, are available, but you have to search for them. The durian tree pictured was sold to me as an orange-fleshed Durian graveolens, but in reality is most likely another species. Yeah, Robert was talking to me a bit about that actually last night, explaining a little better, which gets lumped in with the graveolens. But anyway, yeah, these orange and yellow are very similar to a wild graveolens. Apparently they have a very nice taste. They're sweet and sticky and have a peanut butter type taste, but other variations as well. But Robert gets more down to the point here, actually. He says here, this species is known as D. oblongus, and differs in that it drops fruit when ripe, whereas the graveolens splits up on the tree. So it has to be picked at maturity. The advantage of these high-ranging species is they will grow at lower mean average temps, and the one pictured is still vegetative at mean average temps of 19 to 20 degrees Celsius, and only 10 days from winter here in the Gold Coast hinterland. Yeah, because most durians, they need, once the temperature goes under 20 degrees, generally 20 degrees is the lowest temperature that durians will be happy with. Anything under 20, they start getting unhappy. But yeah, these some of these wild species will go down cooler. The one pictured is still, vegetative. I mean, it's still happy and healthy at 19 to 20 degrees. Yeah, actually, I think most of the commercial durians, they don't like going any colder than 22 degrees Celsius, actually. But this one's still happy at 19 to 20 degrees, and it's only 10 days from winter here on the Gold Coast hinterland. Durian zibonensis stops vegetative growth below a mean average temp of 22 degrees Celsius. Yeah, there you go. And at the old, he mentions, here we go, there's the research station. The old Camaranga research station near Cairns. Trees were almost dormant in June, July and August. That's in Cairns. Yeah, the government started a research station with durian and then they just stopped. They gave up. And now it's just up to the people to try and do the research. And the people, there are people that are beginning to win, are working out ways around all the different problems. But yeah, there we go, right up there in Cairns in the tropics, and the durian trees were going dormant in June, July and August. And that, of course, is what's going to happen down here in the subtropics too. But anyway, Robert's doing it. Robert's growing them down there on the Gold Coast. That's a bit further south to where I am here. But actually where I am right here on the Redcliffe Peninsula, we don't get frost either. And we rarely get temperatures under 7 degrees Celsius. So my climate is very similar to Robert's too here. Only we get more, because we're so close to the water, it keeps the frost away. But we do get more wind. But it is possible for me to be able to do similar things to what Robert's doing, in theory, here on the Redcliffe Peninsula, is grow durian. But again, I don't think anybody has got one to fruit yet. Well, to the best of our knowledge. If someone is doing it, they're not telling anyone. But that doesn't mean it can't be done. Yeah, and according to Robert, we could be growing them and fruiting them, having successful commercial orchards of this one here, the durian from Mount Kinabalu. And again, a very tasty durian too. A small fruit, which could have commercial potential here as well, being a small fruit here in Australia, with a great taste that, yeah, tastes like chocolate cherry rum cake. How cool is that? Anyway, moving right along, this is how this is Robert's young meringue tree that he's growing beside his big tree. He's planted this to try and improve fruit set and fertility of his big meringue. He's planted it just beside his big meringue. You can see his big meringue there in the background. So yeah, so he's planted this in May, well this is May 2019. He says here, yeah, the quickest way I have found of establishing meringue trees in a marginal subtropical climate is growing them in their own shade house until they are about 2.7 metres, which is 9 feet tall in the old money. Also prepare your soil in advance and supplement any trace elements that are a bit low. Zinc is the major one on his soil type. And feed and water well. Use everything to your advantage, such as foliar feeding, sea soil, etc. Plant your trees in mid-spring, if possible, as the weather stabilises and soil temps rise. You want to get as much growth before winter slows everything right down. This latest tree, which is a good self-fertile variety that I drove back from North Queensland last year, was 90 centimetres tall at planting 6 months ago. So yeah, he planted it at 90 centimetres tall 6 months before the 21st of May. So yeah, it would have gone in the ground mid-spring 2018. And yeah, he's put on a bit of size to it then already, yeah. It is now pushing up the shade cloth at about 2 metres. He's got it from 90 centimetres to 2 metres in 6 months. I'll be adding another 90 centimetres of shade cloth in the next few days. I use a cheap 50% black wind cloth, which I double up on the northern side. I hope this information has been helpful, as I have had a few people wanting help on establishing some of these cold, tender species. Yeah, it's a tricky tree to grow or to get established down here. Robert has by the sound of it, he's got a pretty good soil actually. He's got a red clay loam, volcanic loam, and some brown soils too, he was saying, which is all a lot better than what I've got. I've got basically sand. I've got a very poor sort of grey, sandy soil, basically no clay. And that's for about the first 3 feet around here. I'm not sure if it was brought in. It might have been brought in even when the land was first established. But once you get down to about 3 feet, there's clay, which is good for advanced trees. So yeah, trees do tend to struggle, but eventually as they get bigger, they get their roots into that clay and they can grow very well. But I find with my papaya in particular, well, they pretty well will never get their roots down into that clay, or they're really struggling. So I've got to add a lot of nutrient. It's very important for me to add a lot of nutrient, not just zinc. I've got to add everything where I am here. All the trace elements, and more often than you would in a lot of areas. But anyway, yeah, that's what it's all about. I've got those seeds now from Robert, and I'll be raising my tree, my acclimatised seeds, acclimatised from his big 22-year-old tree. It's been here in the subtropics for 21 or 22 years. So that's going to give me an advantage. And now we'll just see how long it's going to take me to grow these things in a pot. It's going to be at least 2 or 3 years, I imagine. I'll have them in a pot before I plant them out. And the big challenge now will be getting these seeds through this coming winter, because it's autumn now actually, and so far we're having nice warm days, but the nights are extra cold. It's a cold winter in the it's a cold autumn in the evenings already. And last winter was terrible. Last winter was very cold, had many days of cold weather, and I have a feeling this winter's going to be similar. And yeah, pretty well all the tropicals, I've got soursops and that, they're all, even though the days are warm, the growth has pretty much stopped now, because the nights are getting cold. The nights are going under 20 C. Many nights, nearly every night is going under 20 C, and that stops. All these tropical plants stop growing. Even my papayas have stopped growing. But anyway, yeah, that's how he grows them when they're young. I think that's very important if you want to succeed with marangs in the subtropics. Marangs, or tarap, they're called in the Philippines, or tea-wrap. Tea-wrap is another name for them. Madang is another name for them. Really beautiful fruit, really delicious, sweet, beautiful fruit. See, here's what the fruit looks like. That's the seeds. Remember the seeds he's given me. And they're quite big. They're like almost as big as a soccer ball, these fruit. Oh yeah, and according to Robert, the aerials, that's what each little piece of fruit is known as an aerial, or it's almost a bulb. Like there's little balls of fruit with a seed in the middle. And Robert's fruit have about 20 aerials in each fruit. About 20 of these little tasty sweet balls of fruit. Whereas in the tropics they'll have 40 or 50 aerials. So yeah, they are a little bit light on the fruit, Robert says, here in the subtropics. But he's planting this other one. He's hoping this is going to help. This may help to give him more aerials in each fruit, as well as more fruit as well. So we'll see. Time will tell. But anyway, yeah, that's his second tree in 219. Planted at 90 centimetres in spring 218. And now he's got it to 2 metres in 6 months. And it's starting to break out of the shade house, so he's going to add an extension. So it'll remain protected for, well, I think he said, what did he say, 2.5 metres, 2.7 metres, before he'll let it come out of that shade cloth. Anyway, yeah, he's got another exotic tree there in his little valley that's a sun trap, very protected. Oh, this is a Garcinia. Over 20 years old. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Wow. I'm sure that's a nice fruit too. This is more of these Chempejacks trees. With the fruit setting. Very interesting. I'd love to grow this tree down here too. And I'd love to raise some of the seeds. They get a lot bigger than that. That's the young fruits. Chempejack. Forgive my bad pronunciation. But yeah, very similar to a jackfruit, only from what I can gather, they taste better than a jackfruit. So yeah, well worth growing if you can. And he's doing it quite successfully down there on the Gold Coast. Another mango variety. More of his rare mangoes. More mangoes. Red black sweet fruit. Sounds interesting, hey? Found in northern Australia and Southeast Asia and the Solomon Islands, and commonly known as the little gooseberry tree or sparrow's mango. Hope to find out what it tastes like this season as my tree is starting to flower. That's on the 14th of October 2019. Another mango species. Yes, one of these here. I think this is the one. It was brought into Australia for trials as a cold hardy rootstock. So that's interesting. And yeah, it could be used in the future as a rootstock for more cold tolerant mangoes that could be grown further south. Although there is people successfully growing mangoes right down in Melbourne. Again, pushing the zones, but it'd be pretty tricky, I think. It can get quite cold in Melbourne. It can get hot in Melbourne too, but oh gee, it can get cold. They get some shocking weather, if you ask me. I wouldn't like to be living down there, but there's some very good gardeners in the Melbourne area, and who just do amazing things down there. Actually, here we go with the Marang again, and Robert says here on January 2020, even after the driest and hottest spring we have had in South East Queensland with the lowest humidity I can remember. Look what happens with constant watering. The best fruit on my meringue I have ever had. Even after 30 years, I am still learning. With the hot, dry weather, I made a point of keeping all of my ultra-tropicals well watered. In fact, my meringue was watered better than in normal years. It seems the better this tree is watered during flowering, the bigger the flowers and better the fruit set. So yeah, look at this fruit. They're amazing, just the size, just considering the yields you can get off them. But I've never tried them actually, but I've heard and seen so many people on the internet just drooling over the flavour of these fruit that I just know I will love them. They're just very sweet and delicious. Yeah, and I can't wait to try one for the first time. And to have my own trees would be just fantastic. To have some of these big trees bearing lots of fruits. What do we got here? There's male flowers on his meringue again. I've never had male flowers this big before on my meringue. So keep them well watered from beginning of flowering onwards. Yeah, being an ultra-tropical, they would love the water, I'm sure. Another mango species. Small but nice, and they're produced in bunches. Yeah, Robert's a wealth of knowledge. He really knows this species, hey. He just rattles off all the technical names of all these different species with ease. More mangoes. Oh yeah, these are interesting plants, these prickly pears. He's got some interesting varieties of prickly pear there. The only good thing about the recent dry weather, apart from the good mango season, is the good prickly pear season. Yeah, they like the dry, and mangoes do too. Yeah, that's an interesting prickly pear. That's a legal one too. There's there's another prickly pear that's illegal in Australia. It tastes good, but it was a really serious problem in Australia once. But this one is legal. It's not as thorny. The illegal one is very thorny. A jujube. I think that's quite popular in America, that fruit. And has a fair bit of cold tolerance. Here's a meringue again. Here's perhaps a little on the small side, but still very nice, especially for the subtropics. First day of autumn, and I've just picked my first meringue. This is March 2020. Just picked my first meringue of the season. It was one of the lowest ones, so I was able to pick it a few steps up the ladder. I have to get my extension picker for the rest. The smell is not that great, not like the fruity smell of jackfruit, more like a chemical, musky fruit smell. Yeah, I've heard people say that before, kind of a chemical-y smell. Some people even say a diesel-y smell, I think. But still, apparently, it's extremely delicious fruit. We have a Java plum here. Here he talks about the variation in seeds. Yeah, some plants, it depends on the seed. You know, if you're growing from seed, your plants can range from sweet, astringent, or lack flavour, or you could get a really good one. That's where selective breeding is really important again. We need more people just growing seeds and picking out the best seeds. More meringues here. Yep, that's what they look like. That's what I'll hopefully be growing with my seeds. That's what my trees will hopefully be bearing. 2nd of March. Yeah, I think he said that the season varies a bit from year to year. He has picked meringues in February, as early as February, but generally it's March, April. And his biggest pickings were in March. But anyway, here in the 2nd of March 2020, started picking my meringues just in the nick of time. The flying foxes are getting attracted to the really ripe fruit, as can be seen on the smallest fruit in the picture. They don't call them, don't ask me to say that word, for nothing. The foxes really pick up on the smell of the really ripe or overripe ones. Luckily they change colour as they ripen, so we've picked at the slightly green stage as the larger upper fruit in the photo, this one. They're still hard with not much smell and will ripen in 2 or 3 days. Okay, yeah, that one's still a little on the green side, whereas that one is perhaps is fully ripe and the flying foxes have been going for it. Here's his meringue again in its own little greenhouse. So here we go. That looks small, but it's a little bit bigger. After 15 months in the ground, this is 1st of March 2020. After 15 months in the ground, my latest meringue has gone from 90 centimetres tall to 2.32 metres tall and has developed 3 branches. Some of the higher leaves on the branches are developing their mature adult form as compared to the larger immature lower leaves. This tree stopped growth in the winter, but also the spring, as it was very hot and dry with very low humidity, even though I was giving it plenty of water. Once the rain started and humidity increased, it took off again. Okay, there it is at 2.32 metres tall. in its own little sheltered shade house. And there's the leaves. Well, that looks like the younger leaves there. And there's the more mature leaves. Interesting. Or maybe that is the more mature leaves. Don't take everything I said as 100%. I'm still learning here too. More of these delicious meringues. Look at that, hey? Amazing. Knowing when to pick your meringues is not always that easy, as they are normally very high up the canopy. I'm going to start using binoculars for the really high ones, so I don't pick them too green with my extension picker. Fruit has a colour change when ripening from green to yellow-brown, but to gauge the right amount of ripeness, stem colour is a good indicator. In the photo, the stem on the left is still very green, and when picked, this fruit bled a lot of latex. Some can be seen on the stem and shoulder. There we go, the latex of the fruits. I will have to see if this fruit ripens properly. He's worried it could be a little too green. The centre colour, I'll have to see if this fruit ripens properly. The centre colour is perfect. The centre colour fruit there. The centre colour is perfect, and the right fruit is nearly overripe. If left on the tree too ripe, fruit bats will hone in on the smell and start eating your fruit. So getting your timing right is important. Okay. Another durian. An update on my durian species, Isu raman, Durio oblongus, commonly known as the orange-fleshed gravolians. Although again, Robert doesn't believe it's a gravolians, and he was telling me more about this last night actually, that there's one of the foremost experts on durian in Australia was also saying it's not a gravolians. And well, yeah, just basically, you know, just looking at it, you can simplify it really. This one, the fruit falls off the tree, whereas it seems, or the true gravolians, the fruit stays on the tree. It opens and the fruit just falls out on the ground. The fruits stay on the tree and they just open up, and birds, etc., can eat the fruit, whereas this one falls to the ground. And also, well, the red-fleshed gravolians is apparently very tasteless. It kind of tastes like an avocado. It's got a lot of fat but no real flavour. Whereas the orange and yellow durian, or again, is this Durio oblongus, according to Robert. I think he's got his facts right, actually. So maybe I'm learning something that a lot of people don't know yet. And maybe in a few years I'll be able to talk about it better than what I'm doing now. But yeah, apparently the orange and yellow are very sweet and got to have a peanut butter taste and hints of other interesting flavours as well. But anyway, an update on my species, Isu ramin. Isu ramin, Durio oblongus, commonly known as the orange-flesh gravolians, growing on the Gold Coast Hinterland. It kept growing throughout the winter, although at a snail's pace, but did not like our hot, dry spring with very low humidity. Despite frequent watering, it stopped growth. As soon as the wet season started with the first rain on Christmas Eve and an increase in humidity, growth started up slowly. Look at this Christmas Eve. So that was a dry year then, because Christmas Eve is almost the middle of the year. It's well into summer, but it just wasn't growing because they need that rainfall too. They need that rainfall. Even though I think where Robert is, we get a higher rainfall than we get here at Redcliffe. Robert would be in a fairly high rainfall area, I believe. The Gold Coast Hinterland tends to get very good rain. But anyway, yeah, it was a dry year, and it didn't start getting growth till the first rain on Christmas Eve, which is a few days after the summer solstice, actually. And an increase in humidity and growth started up slowly. It is now growing at a good rate. My second tree has followed the same growth pattern and is close to starting another growth flush. So there we go. Still quite a young tree, but yeah, if anyone's going to get fruit on durians down here, it's going to be people like Robert. Here we go, back to the Marang again. This photo taken from near the top of my ladder shows me starting to pull back the covers of my Marang tree. It's just starting to come out now of its little shade house. The top leaf was starting to push up the shade house at 2.8 meters. So time to gradually harden it up to full sun. 17 months from planting it out. 17 months after going into the ground, it's now 2.8 meters, and now Robert is slowly taking that shade house off it. Slowly letting it harden up to full sun. So that's how it's done. And here now we've got his this is his jackfruits, I think. He's got those Chempejacks, but he's got some good jackfruits too. He doesn't say though, does he? He doesn't say here whether this is the Chempejacks or actual jackfruit. Maybe it's the Chempejacks actually. China. Maybe this is his China. Someone says here. Oh yeah, Chempejack. I think Chempejack is the original species, or that has a lower cold tolerance. But the Chempejack with the jackfruit crossed in has a higher cold tolerance. Yeah, this could be the China, which is
Here we have fruit set on my China. A fruit grower nearby recommended a new fertilizer to help improve fruit set, and it sure is working well. I'll just see if I can zoom in a bit. Yeah, setting all the way down to the ground, all up the main branches. And still plenty of flowers still to open. So quite impressed with this new fertilizer. I think it works very well. Second week of winter here, and yeah, flowering's not over by a long shot yet.
okay, there we go. That's from Robert himself. I think he might be talking about this rustica. He doesn't mention the name of the fertilizer he's using, but at other times he does mention that he really likes this rustica when his trees start flowering, not before. But when they do start flowering, he's been getting good results with rustica. There we go, more of the durian, jungle durian. 2 weeks into winter, the durian is still pushing out new growth here on the Gold Coast Hinterland, even if it is very slow. Both my trees have established well and are now into their second winter down here, Hopefully their growth rates will speed up next season. June 2020. I'd love to know how they're going now. Ah, here we go. Here's the Marang again, coming out of its own shade house. And there's the adult Marang. And you remember in the photo, see that, yeah, that Marang doesn't look so big there, does it? Without a person. But if a person was standing there, they'd come up to there. They'd be just up to the height of the first leaves. Going by that first photo I showed you right down the bottom of the page. So yeah, that's his 21 or 22-year-old Marang, and that's his younger one here. That's finally poking up out into the full sunlight after 17 months in that shade house, up until he got it to 2.8 meters high. Here we go. My second Marang is coming along nicely, seen lower down in the row from my mature tree. This tree was put in to get better pollination and full of fruit on my mature tree. Yeah, that is it. He's done this to get better pollination, but also full of fruit. He believes it's going to give him more aerials. Remember how I was saying? Robert was saying his fruit have about 20 aerials per fruit. That's kind of like these bulbs of fruit. Once you open these things, it's full of these little bulbs of fruit that are with the seed in the middle. And aerials is the correct term. And the ones in the tropics get 40 to 50 aerials, but here in South Queensland he's only getting 20. So he's hoping this extra tree, this younger Marang's going to help give him full of fruit with more aerials. This tree was put in to get better pollination and full of fruit on my mature tree, as well as being a selected, self-fertile, good variety in itself. The trick is getting it to flower as soon as possible. Okay, that would be an interesting species to have too in a few years, to have seeds from that. But this one, yeah, this is the seeds I have. I've got seeds from this tree. And it's been here in the subtropics for 21 or 22 years. So that's going to give me a distinct advantage. Hardiness with age. One thing I've noticed with growing Marang here in the subtropics, South East Queensland, is that mature trees need less heat units for vegetative growth than the younger trees. So yeah, as they get older, they get a better cold tolerance. The young leaf in the first photo is from a 9-foot tall seedling. It stopped growing about a week before winter, when mean average temps dropped to around 18°C or less. This younger tree is not totally dormant, as it's still hardening up and thickening green branches, which are developing their mature grey-brown colouring. My mature tree, on the other hand, is pushing out new leaves now in midwinter at mean average temps of 16 to 17°C, with the above average winter rain we've had. I normally don't water it in winter unless it is very dry, but when nature sends the rain, it keeps growing, as in the second photo. Going on past years, this growth is about a month early, which means flowering will probably be early as well. July 2020. Interesting. So that's his young tree, basically not growing. And this is his older tree that is growing, that is still putting out new leaves. That's interesting too. So here's Robert's mum with one of his jackfruits. Although I think he said this photo is 20 years old, if I remember correctly. But what a beauty. He posted this tree in 2020, but I think he was saying it's a 20-year-old pick. It's certainly, you can tell it's pretty old. It'd be at least 10 years old, this pick, but I think he might have told me 20 years. Came across an old photo of the largest black gold jackfruit I've picked off my tree. It was 22 kgs, 22 kilos. I remember my mum saying, hurry up and take the photo. It must be crushing it. Amazing. He's got some more pics of his black gold jackfruit up here too, which is very interesting. Here's his meringue, August 24th of August. Meringue flowering early this year as predicted. Noticed the first flower bud this morning. Gave the tree a good feed of rustica. There he is, the rustica fertiliser for flowering fruit trees, to get your best flowers and fruit on your trees. Gave the tree a good feed of rustica plus about a month ago. Rustica plus about a month ago. We'll see if fruit set and size are any better this season. A good feed of rustica plus. So he's given it something else as well, I think. Unless that's the full name of it, rustica plus. I don't know. Here's Robert's 30-year-old lychee. 3 weeks into spring here in South East Queensland, Australia, and great flowering on my 30-year-old Bengal lychee tree. I gave it a good feed of rustica plus fertiliser. It must be, there we go, that's the full name, rustica plus. Fertiliser at the beginning of winter, and I'm seeing the results now. Yeah, good flowering. Robert's prickly pears, another bumper crop of the domestic prickly pears this year. Now here we go with the prickly pears. I've tasted that orange one and it is delicious. It's really good. I was amazed at how good it tasted. I've eaten the ones that are a pest in Queensland, because you still find them sometimes, and they're very nice too, but this orange is just exceptionally delicious fruit. So I imagine this yellow is probably pretty good as well. Here we go, these are his black gold. An oldie but still a goodie. An older variety black gold fruiting well after using a new fertiliser. A quick count of 39 fruits on the tree, about a third of them around 15 kilograms. This is a bit of a disadvantage as it is a lot of fruit to consume at one go. I have started giving fruit to some of my friends. Gives me great satisfaction. Amazing looking fruits, eh? Black gold jackfruit. And they seem to be doing very well for Robert.
Just came down to check out my black gold jackfruit. We've had a lot of rain, probably about 6 inches over the last couple of days. And I've missed a couple here. Looks like one's fallen off ripe. I'm lucky with this tree in that it branched low, so I don't have to climb to get them.
Interesting, hey? Oh yeah, this is what Robert says is his fastest growing jackfruit ever. Yet the fastest growing Artocarpus I have grown. A seedling jackfruit from the variety Rajang, planted about 2 years and 5 days ago. A large fruited crispy type with fluoro orange bulbs, hopefully. It is the last jackfruit I hope to plant, as I already have 5 mature trees in my orchard, including 1 hybrid and another 2 trees around the house. The grower who supplied my last batch of exotic fruit trees talked me into it. She said it was the nicest jackfruit she'd ever eaten. I don't think it'll be too much longer to wait. Yeah, actually now, I think Robert told me last night, he picked his first fruit off this tree before it was even 3 years old. So yeah, that's it at 2 years and 5 days. But before it hit 3 years from seed, he got his first fruit off it. So that's amazing. And I think he said something like he's picked about, I don't think he's picked 10 yet. I think he said 7 or maybe 9. He's picked 7 or 9 fruit off it already. Because that's March 2021. And now it's April 2022. So yeah, if he's picked 7 fruit off it already, it's doing well, isn't it? It's an amazing tree. And only a bit over 3 years old. So I'm not sure what we're looking at here. Quaymuck. Maybe that's the pronunciation. Quaymuck. A Thai tree that some people say is really nice, really delicious. But I've heard sometimes they can be very sour too. So again, it just depends. I think it depends on the age. It depends on a few things. It might even be, again, variation in the seed. But some people say this is an exceptionally delicious fruit. And I've heard a few people complain that it's exceptionally sour. So a lot might come down to the luck of the draw. This is a Quaymuck planted about 2 years and 6 days ago as a fairly small plant. This variety came to Australia through a research station in Borneo. It is a large fruited variety, so this could be a good one, with excellent flavour, and has been well received by fruit tasters in North Queensland. Let's hope this one turns out good for me, as I have 4 other huge trees in my orchard that produce rubbish. Well, there you go. Okay, he's got 4 other Quaymucks that produce rubbish. He doesn't like them. If it does, I will top work one of these trees and put the chainsaw through the other 3. If it does turn out to be a good tree, he's going to top work one of these trees and cut down the ones that are rubbish and plant something new in their place. A hard thing to do, but when you're running out of room, what other choice is there? Yeah, if they're rubbish trees, get rid of them. But yeah, that's his Quaymuck that's highly acclaimed. So yeah, I've heard that a few times. Some are exceptionally good. It may depend on the people too, people's tastes. But it does seem there's quite a bit of variation in flavour. Some are exceptionally good and some are not so good. Here we go, the Marang again. Wow, March 2021. Just coming along now, hey? An update on the Marang I planted out 27.5 months ago. Really starting to branch out well now. Should start looking good in another couple of months. Planted this tree for better pollination of my mature tree, which is next to it. You can see some of the foliage, there it is there, on the top right. A bit of the foliage of the mature tree on the top right of the pic, further up the row. So yeah, that's getting a bit of size about it now, and I'm sure it's a fair bit bigger even now. Because what's that? It's more than a year later, so I'm sure this one's looking very nice now. Really starting to get a go ahead. Poking right out of its shade house. Here we go. There's 2 durians again. Jungle durians, Isu Ramin, still going strong. When I picked them up from the grower, she said it would be a good idea to pick out 2 different looking seedlings, so I would get a bit of genetic diversity within this species. One is very upright and open. This one here with very long leaves and drip tips. The other is more compact and branching with shorter leaves and drip tips. Both keep growing through the winter but at a snail's pace, but seem to be growing faster now that they are established. These trees need good drainage like avocados and need preventive phosphoric acid as well. Interesting. The phosphorus acid they give to the avocados down south too, to stop them from getting sick. They have been through 2 winters so far. The upright growing one is now 1.77 metres tall, and the bushy one is 1.34 metres tall. So there we go. Let's hope they'll get huge if they're gonna survive. Well, they want to. Durians want to get very big jungle tree. Carambolia, starfruit. This one's a mango relative that occurs in North Queensland. Oh, that's another one. We've already covered this one. The sparrow's mango. A small mango, reddish black to black when ripe. And quite nice too, apparently. More of the durians. He's got these in a shade house. As the discussion about durian species that are a bit more cold tolerant has come up again, I thought I'd give a little update. Firstly, the only reason I've attempted this particular species over another more suitable one is that it was the only one I was able to get here in Australia. I also had to drive it back from North Queensland myself, as I got it from a private grower and not a commercial nursery. From all the research I had done on the red-fleshed durian, ranges almost to the same red-fleshed durian with ranges almost to the same altitude as, how do you pronounce that again? Kinabalu, the Kinabalu enensis. Or again, the durian that grows on Mount Kinabalu. It's supposed to be the most cold-tolerant durian. And that's the one, you know, for God's sake, Australian government, let us get hold of these seeds. We need to be growing this one down here in South East Queensland. So yeah, this red-fleshed range is almost the same altitude as the one at the Mount Kinabalu, but I was not sure about the orange-fleshed one, which is the one he's bought. Robert doesn't like the red-fleshed one. He says it's not sweet. It's not a real good eating one, really, according to Robert, and it makes sense to me. Apparently it's very much like an avocado. It can be nice in salads and that, but it's not a sweet one, whereas the orange and yellow are. I only knew that this one was more common in the higher country, so I took a gamble. The following picture is of my more upright seedling at 2 metres tall and not yet 3 years in the ground, still growing under shade. All the tips have started to push out another new flush. Should look more like a tree by next winter, which is coming soon now, because this was December 2021. Now it's April 2022. I'm not comfortable putting a scientific name to this species, but believe its common name of ramen is likely to be correct. Ramen. Yeah, there's still some controversy over its true name, but I think there's a good argument, well, Robert puts up a good argument that it's not a graveolens. So there we go. And yeah, one of Australia's foremost durian experts, who's passed away now, also believes it's not a Graveolens. So it seems the debate may still be going. What species of durian is this? What are we looking at here? Is this the Marang again? Ah, it is the Marang. Now to something that definitely does grow and fruit in South East Queensland in a good microclimate. That's another reason why I went for the Marang. It seems it's your best bet. It's an ultra-tropical. It's very similar to the Jackfruit, and well, it's not really the same as Jackfruit. Well, they're the trees I'd love to have: Jackfruit, China, Chempejack, Durian. But this and Marang, and this is the one that's working. It can work quite successfully here, and Robert's proving it. It can bear quite a good crop. Now for something that definitely does grow and fruit in southeast Queensland in a good microclimate, as long as it is established correctly in the early years. Okay, again, as long as it is established correctly in the early years. That shade house for its first couple of years till you get a bit of size on it, till it's 2.7 metres tall according to Robert. Here we go here again, Marang. Here's some pictures of male and female flowers and fruit setting on the tree December 2021. So yeah, I've got seeds from some of these fruit. Having 2 La Nina years in a row sure does save on irrigation. Flower in the front of my hand is a male flower. So yeah, we've had 2 good wet years, and this has really added to Robert's bumper crop this year. He had his biggest crop ever. As you can see, I've been following Robert for years with a lot of interest in these Marangs. And now I finally bought his seeds. I was just so stoked when he made an offer to me to buy some of his seeds. It's such a privilege to grow these trees. It's going to be just so good. Here we go, 22nd of January. The La Nina year we're having this year is really helping some trees here in southeast Queensland. The best crop of Marangs I've ever had. So here's his fruit here setting.
Good set of Marangs on my tree this year. I'm sure the La Nina year with all the rain has certainly helped. I think probably another 6 to 8 weeks before they ripen. Everywhere I look there are Marangs. I stopped counting at about 60, but there's probably only about 6 or 10 more than what I actually counted. Very cool day today for midsummer, only getting into the high 70s because it's been raining so much, but the trees are loving it.
Yeah, imagine having a tree like that, hey? We need to see a lot more trees like that down here in southeast Queensland. That's for sure. Picking Marangs with my extension pruner here in the 5th of March, only a bit over a month ago. I attached a small minnow net to catch the fruit after I clipped the stem. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. There we go, that's how he picks them. Beautiful, look at that. Be so nice. Nice big fruit, really tasty. So everyone says. I've never heard of anyone who doesn't like them. Picked a few meringues this afternoon. 6 are ready to eat now and 2 more in a day or two. There's still plenty more to pick as the season here on the Gold Coast can last until the middle of April. That's the 17th of March. So there we go. Beautiful. And this is kind of how my seeds looked when I bought them from Robert. I got 10 seeds off him. It was $26. I say it when I show you the seeds in this video. And yeah, these are the best seeds you could be buying if you're living in South East Queensland. These are acclimatised seeds from a tree that's been growing here in South East Queensland for 21 or 22 years. Beautiful. Wouldn't that be nice to having harvests like that, hey? So nice. And here's Robert's 100-year-old mum. She's 100 years old now, enjoying some of his meringue. How nice is this, eh?
Is it sweet?
Beautiful.
Here, try some meringue, Mum.
This one I did.
Yeah, tell me what you think of that.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Lovely.
Is it sweet?
Beautiful.
So nice, hey? 100-year-old mum. And that gives you a bit of an idea what the fruit looks like. See how they're like little balls inside there. Little areoles or bulb-like balls of fruit. Yeah, I've never heard anyone say they don't taste good. So there we go. Yeah, if you're interested in rare fruits, I couldn't recommend enough joining the Oz Rare Fruit group. And there's lots of fruit tree experts like Robert. So, yeah, you really should check it out. And you can buy seeds off these people. Swap seeds. I got my soursops from a person I met here in the Oz Rare Fruit group. Got my soursop seeds. And that's been a very enjoyable hobby. I've been growing, I think I might have had nearly 18 trees at one stage. But I gave a few away. I've planted 3. I got 3 soursops in the ground. 2 went in a spot that's turned out a little too shady now. They're not growing very fast, but I've got 1 that gets good sun. And it's going quite well now. And with some luck, it might even give me fruit next spring in a few more months. So that's going to be very nice. Yeah, and now thanks to Robert, I've got a little bit of I'm starting a collection of meringue. So this is going to be very enjoyable growing these trees over the next few years. So there we go, folks. I hope you found that interesting. That's the meringue tree, or tarap as they call it in the Philippines, or tea-rap. I hope you found that interesting. And thanks for watching, my friends. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.
Hi again. I'll just give you a quick look at my winter seedling setup. I've used this to raise some of my red papaya when the weather was cooler. Some of my red papaya seedlings. This is my makeshift seed bed. I set it up on the hot water system here in the laundry. In the laundry here, it's just a small room. I'm keeping the door closed this time. I want to make extra sure I can keep this as warm as possible in here. It's probably not really good enough, really. I do wonder if I should maybe spend a little more money, get a proper heat bed. Although that hot water system does work quite well as a heat bed. Just set it up on top of that. And I've got a fluoro light there with some grow fluoros, some grow bulbs on it, or one grow bulb. Actually, I think one's blown. But yeah, that's where I've got my Marang seeds sprouting. Today's the 10th of April 2022. They've been in here for 7 days now. The ones that already had a root system have already come up. What is there? There's 4 of them have come up. You can see these little sprouts there. They're kind of unusual looking. They don't seem to have a top at all. There's another one. That's the biggest one. I hope nothing has bitten the tops off them. There is a few cockroaches around here and they attack seedlings. Robert will see this video anyway, hopefully he can advise me on it. But yeah, 4 of them have come up. I'm not even sure, I'm not sure if that is one. It might be another one there too. So yeah, they came up pretty quickly. I planted these on the 3rd. Those shoots were up in just a few days actually. And the other pots have got seeds in that were only just barely cracked open. So they didn't have much of a root system. So they still haven't done anything yet, but hopefully before too long. But anyway, actually I can feel the warmth of this actually. It's because it's autumn now and it's an extra cold autumn in the evenings. It is extra cold, so I'm thinking perhaps I'll keep these seedlings here all through winter. Might be the best bet over the next few months. So yeah, it's April the 10th now. So the first day of June is winter. But yeah, they should be able to stay here a few months. Keep them warm, and they've got the grow light. So yeah, just one fluoro bulb. Perhaps I could buy another bulb if they really need it. And just keeping this door closed. And this will be the warmest room of the house with its light and everything, so it shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully for raising some ultra tropical seedlings here through winter. That's essentially what I'm trying to do. The days are still quite nice. We're getting up to 28°C even most days, but the nights the temperature's going under 20. And most of my things, especially my tropicals out in the yard, they've all stopped growing now. So anyway, yeah, just sort of give you a look at that. Hopefully even Robert will be able to advise me more on what's going on there. Yeah, it's just like it's almost like a root. Sometimes seeds do that actually. They can come up the wrong way around and just throw a root up. So I don't know what's going on there. I hope nothing's eaten the top. But yeah, it doesn't seem to have any leaves. It just seems to be a little stem. Fingers crossed. I do want to buy another 10 seeds too actually. So I'm going to try to buy another 10 if Robert has any. So there you go. I just sort of show you that right at the end of this video. Hope you found that interesting, folks. Yep, this is my little heat room. And it is definitely warmer in here. I can definitely notice it. It's late night right now. It's about 11 p.m. and it's quite cool in the other rooms, but in here is not too bad. I'd be taking my jumper off after a little while if I stayed here too long. So I just keep this door closed over winter and fingers crossed. Okay guys, see you next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.